of things I've actually done. One of them, which I'm excited about, is having an anniversary next week. Any of you, just curious, in the last 10 years, have any of you used Skype or these days use FaceTime to communicate? Any of you guys actually paid to use FaceTime? You're all welcome. Because I did a lot of work 11 years ago. I went to Washington, because I used to work on Wall Street, and it was voice over IP that saved my life. And the voice over IP was born in Israel. So I'm forever grateful to Israeli engineering, because if I didn't discover voice over IP accidentally when I was working on Wall Street, I very well might have died in 9/11, because the company I worked for, Canada Control Securities, was in the World Trade Center. We lost 700 people. I knew many of them. And I'm very lucky to be alive. And so whenever I hear that someone lost their job, I say congratulations. Because I celebrate life every day. And I happen to really deeply appreciate innovation and the opportunity to be creative. And so my early childhood brought me into amateur radio. And from amateur radio, I was always connected with people. My first experiences with Israel happened to be that one of my friends, 4Z4UX, his name was Danny Mayer, and as a kid, I didn't know Danny Mayer from anyone else. And one day I go to Israel. It turns out that Danny Mayer is Danny Meyer, living at 8 Baron Hirsch Street, which at the time his grandmother was alive, and his grandmother was called Meyer. And it was kind of surreal. And in my life, I go on to meet actually the grandchildren of 3 other prime ministers, which are my friends. And it's a very connected world. And so I've very well have had Israel in my blood for a very long time. And I always look at innovation as something which is fun. So for me, ham radio was the savior of my childhood. It gave me a chance to connect with people all over the world. It was my first social network. When I was working on Wall Street, having a background that I gave myself in finance, internet telephony, the ability to talk on the internet, was something fascinating for me. Really, it was a good distraction from a job that I hated. But it gave me an out. It gave me a chance to talk to strangers once again. Because on the radio, you talk to strangers. It's all we spoke to. And when this technology first came out from Multitech in Herzliya, it got a lot of people saying, why in the world do you want to randomly talk to strangers on the internet? And that's my childhood, so I loved it. And what I discovered quickly was that that was a core technology that would forever change the way we communicate. Why? Because until then, we had things like long distance. Maybe some of you are too young to appreciate that. But the idea of talking on the internet made voice an application, not a service. I mean, these days people think Uber's big because it's taking a service like car service and making it into software. It's been happening for 20 plus years. What I discovered personally was that not having a background in something was a great opportunity to do something. And over the years, I became fortunate to be disruptive without appreciating it until after I was disruptive. But I took a ham radio perspective into telecom without a background. And by just doing experimentation, I accidentally launched the world's first internet telephony network, which in its time was pretty cool. And then I ended up having to fight Washington, because in America, if you're disruptive, lobbyists go after you, and then they want blood. And so in 2003, when the world was coming back from the dot-com crash, the telecom crash, and the effects of 9/11, I woke up one day worried that the phone companies would destroy innovation in America. So I went to Washington with a request for the FCC to rule that voice communication that starts on broadband, it doesn't touch the legacy phone network, it's not to be regulated as telecom. And to my utter surprise, a year later, the FCC on February 12, 2004, issued the Pulver order, which to the last 10 years has given greenfield opportunities for innovation, not only in America, but around the world. So for that, I'm proud. And it's just really that innovation that allowed all that to happen. So disruption happens all the time. We don't always see it, but it's there. With Zula, which is a product which I hope some of you have downloaded, we've created an opportunity to help teams, people who work together as a team, to communicate more effectively. 17 years ago, voice over IP, people were looking at it as replacement of phone minutes. But I've always wanted to push the envelope in terms of creativity. And so these days, if you find yourself with too much email amongst people who you speak to constantly, we have a replacement for it, because we take email, we put it into a conversation stream. But here at the conference, it's also a nice way to network, to continue the conversation that's here. And if you do download the app and play with it, you'll find that you can actually connect with many other people that have also downloaded the app. It's just a way to communicate and to connect in a comfortable environment. I happen to be co-founder, chairman, and head of new users, so I welcome any feedback. The reason I was invited here to talk, though, is about why I spend so much time in Israel and why it is that I invest. And I'll tell you, quite honestly, it's the people. Because, you know, when you wake up every day being happy that you're alive, and you're always reminded about its innovation and disruptive, positive innovation that drives things, having a chance to get to know people and see how they work is a great opportunity. And my friends in Tel Aviv take having fun very seriously. When people would talk to you about monetary fund policy and all these other funds, I drop the D and just go for the fun. I find that there's a drive and a spirit for Israeli entrepreneurship that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. I do travel the world, but there's a spirit, a realness, a depth. I mean, I don't know if they actually teach in Tel Aviv University how to be a 24/7 worker, but you know, when someone tells me on a Tuesday night that something's going to happen for Wednesday, it's done. People may go home, but people are always working. There's a dedication and a drive that I've never seen anywhere else, anywhere in the world. There is a commitment to excellence, and nothing is really ever impossible. Everything becomes possible. So I learned how to take, my friends in Israel told me how to take having fun seriously and turn it into a business. I've been very fortunate that in the last 3 years, I think I helped invest in over 40 Israeli startups, maybe more. But what I do most importantly for me is I find people who need someone to believe in them, and that's the people who I believe in to invest in. So if someone's on a roll, they're ready to raise money, I'll say hello, give them consulting, give them advice, but I won't invest because they've already got that belief. But when I look at Israeli startups, and anyone here who's in a startup I invested in, the first thing I ask you, they find this out immediately. I look at every startup as a rock band. I want to know who's the lead singer and who's the drummer. And then you can try me on this, it's true, because a lead singer in a rock band doesn't have to play an instrument, but they have to have a stage presence. They have to know what they're doing, they have to know their mission, they have to know where they're going. And they have to own the room when they walk on stage. And the drummer, I look for as a person who sets the beat, who monitors what's going on and makes sure stuff's happening, and they better be doing something important. And when I meet these startups, I want to know, are they a cover band? And what genre of music are they playing? Are they creating their own genre? And so for me, it's like, are you a startup that's copying somebody else? Or are you doing something interesting? And if you're doing something interesting, are you doing it in a new space or in a space that we understand? And you know, the analogy is that if you look at bands, you know, some bands have a bass player, a lead guitar, a rhythm guitar, others have a sax and keyboard, and that's what distinguishes the teams. But for me, when I have a chance to invest in a startup, it's always about the team. I do not invest in singer-songwriters, because even the most successful singer-songwriters these days, when they go on tour, they have backup bands. So, you know, and what's nice about startups in Israel that have an absolute head start on everyone else around the world is the military training. You know, people go in high school, they make friends. These friends typically are friends they have in the Army. So when you ask people about having their back, it's not about 3 people from Soho who got together to have fun to do a startup. I mean, these people have actually been in real life and death situations. They have each other's back. They take that stuff really seriously. So I've been fortunate to meet some amazing teams in Israel. I've been fortunate to meet the most remarkable people in the world, really. And beautiful, beyond physical, just emotional, mental, spiritual. It's amazing what you can do. You just have to let yourself dream. And for me, I go to Tel Aviv to let dreams come true. And to the chance that I can contribute to something positive, it's an honor. And so if you have a chance to get involved with an Israeli startup, please do so. I really appreciate our crowd. They did do the funding they were one of our investors in Zula. And we're going to be raising more money for Zula soon, and they're a part of it already, so I appreciate that. But really, don't let anyone ever tell you your dreams can't come true, because they do, every day. You just have to believe in yourself. And even if no one else believes in you, as long as you believe in it, it can happen. And that for me is what I learned as an entrepreneur, is I didn't never let what I did not know stop me from making anything happen. And so when I meet with startups who otherwise on paper don't have any qualifications, it doesn't matter to me. I just look at them, do they feel like they're good people? You know, as an investor, I'm an OBGYN investor. What does that mean? That means I invest in startups from the moment they're conceived to the time they're born. I look at the DNA. I I want to know whether or not, the startup has the potential to pivot. I mean, most people who went to university today probably not practicing the degree they studied. They pivoted. They found new focus. Most startups that are successful find new focus. And there's something about their DNA that makes them successful. So that's what I look for, is people with a purpose who are able to pivot on a moment, but people who will be there for the long term. Anyway, I'm Jeff Pulver. You can find me on Twitter. I'll be around for a little bit. Ido, thank you for having me. It is an honor to speak at one of your events. And I thank the consulate and really Wino and everyone else here. And anyway, thanks for your time.